fermentation versus canning as food preservation, I prefer it a lot more because when you're maintaining all the nutrients, you're continuing to add nutrients to them. You're adding probiotics and enzymes, and you're keeping it in its raw state, as opposed to canning, which I know canning is a really great method for putting up food, but that uses a lot more energy, and it also takes out pretty much all the nutrients. I mean, you're going to leave some, but vitamin C and all the antioxidants will be destroyed by all the heat and the pressure. So I really prefer this method. When you make sauerkraut, if you keep it submerged in the brine, and I'll show you more about that, but you could keep it in your fridge or root cellar for at least a year. So, although a jar of sauerkraut has never lasted even like a month in my house, but because we eat so much, but so it's not like you can't put it up, versus a canned food. So you really can keep it a lot longer and increase the nutrition instead of take away. So I'm just going to take off the outer leaves, because there might be some caterpillar poop or something like that on there. And also they're a little wilty, but we're also going to use them as a cover. So I like to take those off and use it for that. I do use the core. I cut off the bottom, just the knobby part, and I'll take that off. So there's a couple different vessels you can use. I like to use the glass jars a lot. So we're going to start off with your basic just cabbage and salt, and then I'm actually going to add a couple of the vegetables. But I will say you can add pretty much any vegetable you want, any herb, any spice. I made one this spring with nettles and ramps. So cabbage was the base, and then I just added nettles and ramps, and it had such a good flavor. So I'm just quartering this and then cutting out the core. I will use that, but it's just easier to shred it separately.
Can you say how did you prep the ramps for the fermentation? I mean, not the ramps, the nettles.
I just raw. So the act of like chopping them and pounding them takes the sting out. Okay. So they were completely raw. Okay. So that is really nice about fermentation. I mean, I wore gloves when I was chopping them, but once I pounded it, and even when I was using my hands to massage it, it didn't sting anymore. So that was really nice. That's a nice thing to do when there's so many nettles. So I'm just going to start shredding this, and I will move this so you can see. I didn't get a very big table today. And you can really shred it as finely or as coarsely as you want. I like a little bit more fine, but you could do big pieces like you see with kimchi or something like that. But any vegetable in your garden, carrots work really well, of course, shredded beets, things like that. One of them we'll try is a garlic and dill, and that's got a nice flavor.
What's your ratio of garlic and dill to cabbage and something like that?
A bunch of dill and a bunch of garlic. And that's the kind of thing is like, this is all just a method for me, so the rest, so probably maybe for like a half gallon I would have used like 6 cloves of garlic and a head of dill or something like that.
And that's like a half a cabbage?
This one
half gallon?
This is a half gallon.
So and a half gallon's about a half a cabbage, is that?
We'll fit a whole cabbage in there for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So a cabbage and...
Yeah, so, and just play with it. Play with the amounts and whatever you like to put in there. This one has golden, this is with Napa as the base, but golden beets, turmeric, ginger, and lemon. And this one is a tortilla. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And I could never, I probably could write the amounts down, but you'll just kind of throw in whatever. Cabbage is your main base. But so this one's a cortito, so this is a red cabbage with jalapeno, carrots, garlic, onion, cilantro, and lime.
Say that again. Yeah, right there.
Is this going to be on your recipe list?
Yes. So the brine is in the sauerkraut method. all comes from the water that's in the cabbage cell walls. We don't add any liquid at all. So adding the salt will help draw it out, and we're also going to massage it, which is going to break the cell walls and release the water. So that's going to combine with the salt to make its own brine. The second method I'll show you, we actually make a brine. We got some kale. And we'll just shred it up. So I like to, when I'm adding, carrots or something more hearty like that, I like to grate it. But with this, I just chop it really finely. Yeah. So pretty much any combination of vegetables you could think of, you could put in there. I've also put, I've seen people put fruits in there as well. It wouldn't be your main component, but you could do that. And we'll add some onion.
I can imagine some apple along with it.
Yep, I've done one that's like a carrot, apple, ginger, and that's really good. Yeah. And when your sauerkraut is done, there's a lot of things you can do with it. I think a lot of people are kind of like, okay, I know I'm supposed to eat a lot of sauerkraut, but when do I eat it? So, my favorite way is actually with eggs for breakfast. It goes so well with eggs, any of the kinds of sauerkraut, but it's a really good combination. Any kind of, pretty much any meat. I usually just have it basically as a side dish, so you can have it with every meal. Fermentation, you want a general cleanliness, I guess, but you don't have to sanitize anything. You don't have to sanitize your jars, you don't have to sanitize your cutting board and all that. You just want it to be clean. We're trying to get more bacteria, and we're creating an environment that's anaerobic and highly acidic. So the acidity will prevent botulism. You won't get botulism from fermented foods. So we want it to be anaerobic because the bacteria we're creating are called lacto-acid producing bacteria. And so we're going to want it to be free from air. So that's why when you press the vegetables down, you want the brine to cover them completely to prevent air from getting in. And not only does that help with the bacteria, but you also prevent getting mold and things like that. So I just added the salt in, and I'm going to stir it in. Now I'm going to start massaging it and start crushing to release the water. That's pretty much it. You want it to be wet and be able to release water. That's a lot of water. And as we press that into the crock or the jar, that's going to rise up. So you're looking for a lot of water to be released, and it's for it to decrease in volume by about half.
Okay.
And for it to soften significantly. And there'll also be that kind of color change, but mostly it's the water. And so one tool that I think is really useful if you are using a jar is a funnel. If you can or anything, you probably already have one. But it's really nice so you don't have just cabbage everywhere. You're already going to have it everywhere. So we'll just transfer it in here. Once it gets to be pretty compacted in there, I usually just use my hand. And you can see how much brine. Then using your fist really helps. But if you're using a jar with a lid, it's not as important that you have a weight because it's not, air and stuff is not getting in. If you are using a lid though, you will want to burp it every few days, because CO2 is going to be released because the bacteria produce it, and you want to burp it so it doesn't explode.